Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University.
Good afternoon, dear students. Greetings of the day. Let me introduce myself and then we will start this session. Myself, Dr. Chintan Waghela from English Department, Babasaheb Ambedkar Open University. Dear students, before we start this session, I would like to convey one message to you. That is one kind of very popular quote which has been said by the Albert Einstein. The quote is called, "Education is not the learning of the facts, but the training of the mind to think." Dear students, I would like to convey one message by sharing this quote is that, sir, dear students, we don't have to educate ourselves or by studying only or to get the degrees only, but we have to sharpen our skills, we have to go for the critical thinking, and we have to achieve the milestone. So that is the main motto of our life. So let's start this session first. Dear students, for today's session, we are having the topic all brief history of English language and various influences on English language. That is our today's topic. And dear students, all these components we have to discuss today. Here that you can see the objectives, introduction, the Old English, contribution of Old English, the Middle English, contribution of Middle English, and the Modern English. Dear students, the first slide we are having that is called objectives. Objective means why we are going to discuss this topic today. What is the main purpose? So here that you can see we are having two different objectives. Number one, to know the history of English language, and second is called to know the various influences, means effect of English language. Dear students, first objective is called history of English language. Dear students, I would like to discuss something about the history first. Why we have to learn the history first? I'm not talking for my subject only. I'm talking for any subject. And why we have to learn the history? Why we have to know the history? Because history is the only one thing which helps us to know what was happening in the earlier times. And by learning, by knowing history, at least we can gain the idea, we can achieve the knowledge as well, we can sharpen our skills as well, that what was happening and what we can do. So here we will also discuss something about the history of English language, and second objective is called to know the various influences of English language. Dear students, influence. Nowadays, as you all are watching on the social media, that number of influencers we are having, and by watching, by following, by subscribing, all these influencers, we are also following them. So dear students, the first slide that is all about the introduction we have. That historians of English language distinguish the three main stages of its development. The first is Old English, which is also known as Anglo-Saxon period, which has been started from 600 Anno Domini to 1100 Anno Domini. The second stage, which is the Middle English period, which had been from 1100 Anno Domini to 1500 Anno Domini. And the third stage is called Modern English from 1500 Anno Domini and onwards. This division need not to watertight for the development of a language is never sudden, but it is a gradual process. However, it can be seen that the process of change is more rapid due to the variety of reasons. Dear students, in the first slide, we are having information about the entire English language is divided in three different stages. Number one, that is called Old English. The time period, I would like to recommend to you all the students that please make a note. The Old English, which is also known as Anglo-Saxon period, the timing of this period 600 Anno Domini to 1100. Second stage is called Middle English period from 1100 Anno Domini to 1500. And the third is called Modern English from the 1500 Anno Domini. So dear students, the first slide which gives us one kind of glimpse of the English language, and it's a different time duration. Yes, let's start the first one, that is called the Old English we have. The Old English or Anglo-Saxon was the language spoken by the people of England from 600 Anno Domini to 1100 Anno Domini. Dear students, the first line which is giving one kind of information about the people of England, they were speaking Anglo-English language during this time period. The people who spoke this language were the descendants of three Germanic tribes, the Angles, Saxons, and Jutes, who entered Britain during the middle of the 5th century Anno Domini. These tribes came from the different parts of Germany and the Jutland Peninsula. They crossed the North Sea and landed on the east coast of England. And then England literally means the land of the angels. Dear students, I would like to discuss the first paragraph here very well. Here that you can see, dear students, that three Germanic tribes. Number one, Angles, Saxon and Jutes. They entered to the England. They settled down and the entire situation, the entire era changed. But here the process is that which time period they entered to the England. So they entered in the Britain during the middle of the 5th century Anno Domini. Dear students, please make a note of it that 5th century, there is one kind of remarkable, the changes that came to the England. These tribes came from the different parts of Germany. And the Jutland Peninsula, they crossed the North Sea. Dear students, here that you can see, this is the correct and the proper path that they have adopted and they just entered to the England. They crossed the North Sea and landed on the east coast of England, and England literally means the land of the angles. And that's why that England also known as the land of angles. The reason behind is that all these three Germanic tribes, they came to the England. That's why. In the second paragraph, the Old English was a language quite different from modern English. It was a synthetic or inflected language having a complicated system of declension and conjunction. By 600 AD, they had succeeded in establishing themselves firmly in England, which under their rule came to be divided into 7 small kingdoms. When Alfred the Great Wessex died in 899, the Saxon dialect of Wessex predominant in southern England. It is now called Western Saxon from 900 to 1100, and this language is standard language of England. So dear students, here that you can see that in Old English, the second paragraph, the Old English was a language quite different from the modern English. It was a synthetic or inflected language having a complicated system and declensions in the conjunction. During the time period of 600 AD, they had succeeded in establishing themselves firmly in England, which under their rule came to divide it in 7 small kingdoms. So dear students, here that you can see when the Germanic tribe, they entered to the England, they settled down there, and then onwards, the England is known as the land of angels. But here one more important phenomenon also happened. By 600 AD, they had succeeded in establishing themselves in England, which under their rule came to divide in 7 small kingdoms. Now, dear students, in this slide, we are having an information about the contribution of Old English. We already discussed in the previous slide that what is Old English. Now, let's see that technically which kind of contribution of Old English we have. See, the Old English language had many dialects, but all of dialects that of Wessex become the most important. Dear students, in first line, you are having the word called dialects. I hope you all know that what is the dialect. Dialect means boli. Language means it's one kind of what we can say in the Gujarati that is called the bhasha, and dialect means boli. Boli means I just want to give an example. Suppose if I belong from the Ahmedabad, મારી અમદાવાદની બોલી છે, કાઠિયાવાડની ભાષા છે, કાઠિયાવાડની બોલી છે, સૌરાષ્ટ્રની બોલી છે. So in the same way, we are having different kind of dialects we have. But here, as you can see in the very first line, the Wessex become the most important. Wessex is one kind of dialect we have. This was because the region was most civilized. Now, in the second line, we are having one kind of reason is that the why Wessex became the most popular dialect. In second line, we are having information about the region was most civilized, had ordered from government, and the literature of this period was written in this dialect, of which the work Beowulf this still survives. Before we go for the next line, I would like to convey one more message to you, that why the Wessex became the most important and the most popular language and the dialect we have. Because there are three main reasons. The first one is that the region was most civilized, having well-mannered and the honored form of government, and the most literature of this period written in this dialect. So during this time period, the most adopted dialect called Wessex, and the most popular work Beowulf was written in the same dialect. That is the main reason as well. However, traces of other dialects still survive. It is the Old English with the several dialects that has given to the doublets and two words with only a slight difference in its meaning. Dear students, as per our title of this slide, that what is the contribution of Old English? So here in this line, you will get the exact contribution of Old English to the English language. Let's see, as you are getting both the words in the red color, that is called, it is the Old English with its several dialects that has given to us doublets and two words with only a slight difference in its meaning. It means that we are having two different terms, that is called doublets and the two words with only a slight difference in its meaning. So here that you can see a minor change in its meaning, most probably both are same. They were originally dialectal variants of the same word. For example, because of the normal development of Old English A into O, the Old English hull becomes whole in the biblical sense of healthy or free from disease. However, in a northern dialect, it change did not take place, and hence we now also the word hell in Anglo-Saxon had a very complicated grammar. Nouns had 3 or 4 case ending. Dear students, case ending, it means that when the word ends, means at the end of the word, we will find some changes. It was also highly inflected just as modern Germany is today. The vocabulary of Old English was chiefly Germanic, through some words came from the language of Celts. Dear students, I hope you know that most probably the words which derived in English language are from the Latin and the Greek languages. But here that you can see, it was highly inflected just as modern German is today. The vocabulary of Old English was chiefly Germanic, through words came from the language of Celts. Every word has pronouns according to its spelling, and there was no silent syllables. Dear students, in English language we are having some words. Some words are silently spoken, but during that time period, as you can see, and there were no silent syllable. It means that whenever we are having the particular word, everyone was speaking the word in which they was written or they identified. For example, the word come from the read as comb. See, C-O-M-E was the word. So they are speaking comb like this. The Roman occupation too had its impact on the Saxon tongue as well. For example, the modern English vowel is derived from the Anglo-Saxon vowel, which is derived from the Latin vellum. So dear students, the word which are highlighted in the red color that you can see, this is one kind of the contribution of the Old English to the English language. Next time period is called the Middle English. Dear students, next the time duration is called the conquest of England in 1066 by William of Normandy. Had a profound influence not only upon the history and political system of the country, but also the language. Dear students, in the first line, you can note down in your notebook, it is very remarkable phenomenon. In the year of 1066 by William of Normandy had a profound influence not only the history, but political system of the country, but also the language as well. Now let's see that how the William of Normandy has a significant impression in the language. English now becomes a much more hybrid language. In the beginning, the two languages were spoken side by side, Old English and Norman French. Gradually, these two languages mingle to give what is known as Middle English. The modern English descended from this mixed Anglo-French tongue. The normal French, which was language of rulers, enjoyed greater prestige and was used as the language of the aristocracy, means rich people, while the English was the language of the general public. However, the mixed language had a pure French words. Meanwhile, Latin was still used for lean words. Dear students, here that you can see the language. So the normal French, which was the language of rulers and enjoyed their great prestige and was used as the language of the aristocracy. Number one, dear students, during that time period, only rich people they can use the normal French language. Whereas the ordinary people, they cannot speak this kind of language and they have to use ordinary language only or the Old English language. And then after we are having the blending of both the languages, means Middle English, Old English, we are having Modern English. In the second paragraph, literary English developed with the growth of London as a center of commercial, political, legal and establishing life toward the end of the 14th century. The East Midland England assumed a dominant position now because it was spoken in around the London as well. Oxford and Cambridge also use it, hence it became the language of scholarship. The received standard English of today is said to have descended from this dialect. Chaucer and number prominent writers of that time used it. Hence, we find Chaucer too intelligible to the modern reader. Introduction of the printing by Caxton, right into bracket 1476 bracket over brought by many changes at their period. So, dear students, in this slide we are having information about the Middle English. Now, as we had introduction about the Middle English in the previous slide, in this slide we are having some information about the contribution of the Middle English to the English language. During this time period, there were changes in grammar, pronunciation and spellings, and there were additions to the vocabulary. For example, es became popular as a plural termination in the place of en. Dear students, I hope you know that when we want to make any particular word, singular word to the plural, we are using s or es at the end of the word and we are making it plural. But in those time period, we are having en. By writing en at the end of the word, it becomes plural. The period also marks the loss of the some inflections. Hence, it is called the period of level inflections. Phonetic development of the Middle English period was the lengthening of short vowels when they stood in open syllable and shortening of long ones in closed syllable. So here, dear students, as we can see in the very first line, major changes in the terms of grammar, pronunciation and spelling found during the Middle English period. That is why we pronounce lady and lady differently. Because in first word we are having double D and second is called the single D. The discrepancy between spelling and pronunciation begin in this period. So dear students, sometimes what happens while we are writing something, for example, lady, L-A-D-D-Y. Some people they were using L-A-D-D-Y lady, whereas some people they are using L-A-D-Y. So this kind of spelling and pronunciation change were started in those time period. The existence of two languages side by side gave rise to synonym, one from the native tongue while the other was from the Norman French. An example is found in two words. Wed means native and marry means French. Means here that you can see wed it is a native and marry from the French language. The French also established the beginnings of the modern legal system, and so number of new words were introduced in the English from the French. So we have a host of words like justice, judge, jury, indict, a verdict, prison, punish and court itself. Same in the case with the higher officers of the church, which got French words like chapel, cathedral, confession and even the word religion itself. So dear students, whatever the words which I have identified in the red color, all these words were identified from the French. Next one is called the modern English. On the advent of the Renaissance, the full flood of the new learning reached England at about the year of 1500 and is affected to the English language too. Dear students, in the very first line, we are having the word called Renaissance. Renaissance means rebirth. Rebirth of what? Rebirth of one kind of language we are having. Let's see. The Renaissance was chiefly a Latin one, and hence Latin words were introduced to the English vocabulary in great numbers. The Reformation was an outcome of the spirit of criticism generated by the Renaissance, and the bitter religion controversies gave rise to a number of words as well. Dear students, by having some new words, we are having some kind of controversial atmosphere. A very important outcome of the Reformation was various English translation of the Bible, the chief being Tyndale was a scholar and the linguistic in 1526. And more important was the authorized version in 1611. The Bible played an important role in fixing the English language and setting a kind of standard. Many more inflections were lost in this period as well. Dear students, in the end of the first paragraph, here we can see the Bible has played very important role. Bible has identified some words and has provided the maximum and the major contribution as well. Second paragraph, we are having printing has played an important role. Dear students, during this time period, printing the books and all these things began. The printers of Queen Elizabeth's time fixed the spelling according to the pronunciation that existed during the late Middle English and early modern English period. However, the pronunciation changed considerably after that, but not spelling. Hence, the pronunciation was not phonetically reflected in the orthography. Hence, English spellings are largely symbolic of thoughts and are not always phonetic representation of the actual sound of the words. Dear students, in the second paragraph, you can see two major the phenomena that you can see that found. Printing has played the important role, and the printers of Queen Elizabeth's time fixed the spelling as per its pronunciation. Okay. Next, hence the invention of printing established a standard language and discredited dialect as well. It served to popularize the new coinage and newly introduced words, and it tended to fix spelling about which there had been a great uncertainty before. By the middle of the present form, so far as grammar, spelling, pronunciation are concerned. Dear students, one more time I would like to make a concern that in the modern English period, in first paragraph you can see the Renaissance, we are having the rebirth of full flood of the new learning reached to the England. And in second paragraph you can see that we are having the printing has started. Thanks to all dear students for giving your valuable time and support. I hope this kind of video lecture series give you a lot of knowledge, and you can enhance your knowledge as well. By the next time we will go for the second portion also. Thank you.
स्वाध्यायः परमं